Hello everyone, Donna here. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're okay. I hope you're up for doing some Christmas crafting today because I've been sat doing these like vintage postcards. I absolutely love them. I've just got a few little things to finish off on these ones and I'm going to show you how I went about doing them. I may also do some Christmas tickets today as well. So I will get on and show you the stamp set that I used and then we'll get on with making some. So I hope you'll keep with me and let's get started. I've used the Made to Surprise stamp set. I think I did show this on a previous recent video, but you've got the postcard here around the outside, which is what I've used on these. And then you have all the little stamps to decorate the postcards with. Apart from that one, that's a separate Father Christmas. But so here you can see I've used the Delivered by Rudolph. I've got this stamp here. I've got the cancellation stamp. I've got this one. So they're just such good fun. Really good fun to have a play with. And then in the post, my Heidi Swap Stamp Society arrived and I just thought, how well do these go together? So this is quite an eclectic stamp set. We've kind of got something which I suppose would have been good for bonfire night here in the UK. But yeah, we've got like sun and leaves, but we've also got like the stars, which is very kind of Christmas vintagey style. And all these tickets and the stripes remind me of candy canes. So I thought the two work really nicely. I haven't even opened this yet, but I'm planning to today. The Father Christmas that I used was this one here. I have no idea where this stamp set's from. It's got no packaging, so I'm guessing I've got it from a magazine or a second-hand shop. But I used the Father Christmas from there. And again, I've also got a random stamp here that does like coffee stains. So I've used a few of these on them as well, just to give some texture. Right here, give some splodges. So let's do a few more because these are such good fun. And you can use them for all sorts. You can use them for your junk journals. You can use them as pockets. You can use them as tags. You can use them as gift tags if you want to put them on a present as a gift tag. So many different uses. You can stack them to make like a belly band across a journal. That you could just do so much. So let's get making some more. I started off with a cream piece of paper. So this is the one that I use. I really like this one. And I used a combination of ink. So I used the Ruby Red for this one. I used this VersaFine Claire Green Oasis for that one. I used the VersaFine Black Pigment for that one. And I used the Sepia VersaFine Pigment for this brown one here. Now these three are pigment inks. They stay quite wet and I did go over with a little bit of embossing powder, clear. You can just pick it up just to protect the ink from smudging. This is a dye ink, so it soaks into the paper. So what I actually did is left the stamp where it was, left my paper where it was, then went over and stamped in a sticky ink and embossed it, and I actually got more shine that way and I quite like it. So I think I might do the same again this time. But that's just a quick overview of what I've used. It is quite handy if you do have a stamp positioner, but I wouldn't say it was completely necessary. It's just in case you want to either stamp again if you like a really clear impression, or if you want to stamp again to put lots of ink down or an embossing ink to emboss. If you don't want to do those things, then an acrylic block would work fine. And what I did was, I just used the full piece of paper. I'm hoping now, I'm trying to get you all on. And I just used like my sticky mat to kind of keep it in place. I just lined it up at the bottom. Got two magnets, pop those down just to keep it still. And then positioned the stamp round about here, just so I've got some cutting space. And then picked it up with the door. So let me just try and make sure everything's on here. Then I'm going to show you how to do it with a dye ink with the VersaFine over the top. So first of all, I just inked up Now, if you just want the dye ink and you don't want it shiny, you just, you know, skip the sticky bit, just stamp it. So, nice press down. I'm going to do it again to make sure I've got all the detail. I like to have some tissue on hand just to, in case any of the ink gets stuck into there. It shouldn't print down, but it did on a few of them, so just to be safe. I'm just going to do one more because I don't feel like this is coming out very clear. So I'll just do that there. And now I'm going to keep this where it is. And I'm going to keep the paper where it is. And I'm going to give that a wipe to get all that red ink off. Being gentle because I don't want to move the stamp. Like, red's notorious for staining. And then with my tissue, I'm just going to dry it off because I don't want it wet either. But I'm not going to scrub because that gets bits of the tissue stuck into all the gaps. So I'm just going to dry it off like that. Then I'm going to go in with the the Versamark stamp pads. This is the clear sticky one. And because we haven't moved anything, this now will stamp right over in the same place, right over that red. And just to be safe, I'm going to do it a second time. Press down. Then we can take this out. You can give this a wipe first if you want. And then it can just be drying off before you do your next one. So now we can get a piece of paper and we can put some clear embossing powder over the top of here. This is the Wow embossing powder, clear glass, super fine. I just get fine because it works for detailed stamps and then, you know, your average stamps as well. But it's particularly good for this because it's got those little like stripes. I completely forgot to use this. I always do. If you're bothered about getting the embossing powder anywhere you don't want it to be, it's always good to use like an anti-static so it prevents the powder from sticking. I've given it a flick to make sure there's no excess powder, and then I always put this back straight away. Then you just need your heat tool. It's important to get it nice and hot. I always put a peg to weight down my paper, then I don't need to hold it. And then you just heat it up and emboss it. So then it takes on all that shine, which I'm hoping it picks up. The light in here at this time of year is terrible. It's pouring down with rain typically, but hopefully it will. If you were inking over them with, say, vintage photo, which we're going to do in a second, the shine will resist the ink, so you can scrub it off and you don't lose the shine or the brightness of the red. You might lose it a little bit, but I quite like that. I like the contrast with the shine and the grunge. As I said, if you don't want that and you're just quite happy to go over it with brown, just skip the embossing bit. So that works well with the embossing powder if you're using a dye ink because, as I said, the dye ink will soak into your paper. We'll do one next with the green, this pigment ink, which will stay wet. And it will stay wet long enough to be able to put your embossing powder on without the additional Versamark. It should do. If you just want to kind of doubly make sure that it's going to pick up the embossing ink, just repeat the same step with the Versamark. The paper's going back in exactly the same place. I haven't moved the stamp. Magnets back on. Just make sure your stamp is nice and dry. And then let's go in with the green. So you can see there, it depends on what ink pad I'm using, and sometimes I think on some ink pads I press a little too hard. So So I'm just going to get rid of that because I don't really want the green in the middle. If you do, you want the look of that, you can always do that. I've smudged green there anyway, so I've got to mark whether I want it or not. Going to stamp again. Now I want mine to definitely be shiny, and I want a bit more shine than I got on this one. I did throw some ink over this green one, but it's not overly shiny. I'd like a nice shine on this. So I am going to clean my stamp off, and I am going to put some Versamark over the top. Again, I forgot to use this before I inked. To be honest, it doesn't, because I'm not card making, I don't feel like I need to get it perfect. I don't mind it a little bit grungy. So that's probably why. If I was in like the mindset of doing something perfect and getting it all nice and tidy, you know, I probably would remember to do that. Okay, so I'm going to give that a wipe. Then it can dry in time for the next one. Then we will just repeat the process. So we'll put some clear embossing powder on. I normally let it sit for a few seconds. Peg on. And then heat. Okay, so we've got two shiny borders. I hope you can pick it up. I'm going to repeat exactly the same process with two more. And I'm going to use the black VersaFine and the sepia VersaFine. I'll speed it up because I'm just doing exactly the same thing. For this one, I know that I rarely need extra embossing ink. It just doesn't seem to need it. So I don't think I'm going to do that with this one. I will just double stamp it and then stick the embossing powder on it. I then, once they were done, backed them onto some coffee dye paper. One, to make them stronger, and two, it's just a little bit darker than the cream. So I've just got some spare. This one's ripped, so I may as well use it. So I'm going to pop them onto here. I don't appear to have a lot of room on my desk. I need to do some tidying. That's why everything's kind of scrunched up. So yeah, the way I did it was just by using a glue stick, and only because you can see through it, I just put glue on that area. Didn't worry about sticking anywhere else. And then, I mean, you can cut your paper down further if you want. Then just put it down and it'll just stick where that postcard is. Got my little cake spatula. Might get some lumps if it's paper that's not been ironed. I don't mind that. I'm going for that kind of grungy look, but just get it as flat as you want it. And then we'll be able to cut round it without getting sticky scissors. And then I just do that for all of them. And then once you have those backed, they just need trimming. Now, you can obviously just hand cut them, trim them whatever way you want. The way I've been doing it is on this little guillotine, mainly because I've just very roughly cut around the outside, so I don't have a straight line. So if I was to put it like that, I'm not really going to get a straight cut. So what I've been doing is putting my paper through and putting the beveled edge of this plastic bit on the edge of where those like striped are. And if I do that, it's going to leave about, if I was to fold that there, it's going to leave a small border, and it will give me the same size border all the way around. So I've actually been using the size of the stamped image to line it up. And that gives me my border. Even that's not brilliant. rather than using the actual size of the paper. So make sure your beveled edge is straight on the stamp, and that should give you a straight cut. Ish. Not going to be perfect, especially if I'm cutting it. Then once you get a straight edge, that makes it easier, because you can use that straight edge then. Okay, then you end up with something like that. I'm going to do that for all of them. Okay, so we're up to this stage, and the next stage is inking to give them that really grungy appearance. So I use a number of inks. I started off with Vintage Photo, and I just worked on the mat and kept these flat and kind of just applied ink really, brought them in a little bit to age them, left them a little bit lighter in the middle. So going in with Vintage Photo, I like to load my brush up quite a lot. I just want to get some colour on there. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's a great thing about doing grungy. You can kind of just throw it on. Oops. I do the back as well. And then I did exactly the same thing, but with the walnut stain. So I came in, I just darkened it up a little bit so you can see the comparison there. They already look great, but tiny bit too orange for me. So I'm going to do it in exactly the same way with a slightly darker brown. And I'm just going to get a cloth and just wipe over the embossing, just to brighten that up again. So you can see it just lifts some of that ink that was on there. So this is why embossing is handy, because you can wipe the ink that's stuck on the top and you can still kind of keep that shine. Next, I'm going to come in with ground espresso. I'm going to do it in exactly the same way, but then this time concentrating more in the corners and a little bit further out from the middle. Then finally, I went around with scorched timber just on the outside to give the outside some definition. It's just a preference. I like it to look like that. I didn't go all the way round. I just picked certain areas. I just think it helps to frame it a little bit. And yeah, just something I like to do. And so all these layers are just preference. You don't need to do as much inking as this. I just like to. So I just kind of pick out the corners, might make the corners a bit darker, do some here, bring it in a little bit in places. Just frames it, I think. And because we've got a lot of ink on here, I'm going to give them a quick blast with the heat tool. They will probably warp a little bit, but they do flatten out again quite nicely. I'm going to use my little peg on each one again and just do them one by one with the heat tool. And then once everything's dry, you can just have loads of fun doing your stamping. So let's just get these examples back in. I've tended to, on all of them, put some kind of circle stamp and the cancel sign. Then I just picked and chose from this stamp set. I did the brown one in brown ink, kept the rest to black, I think. This one was done in brown. But yeah, that's nothing really to it. You just kind of do what you want. Obviously, you don't need to have this exact stamp set either. You've probably got something similar that you can use. So I'm going to get on now and do some stamping on here. Where's my other one? I've got 3. Where's the 4th one? There we go. So I'm going to get on and do some stamping. And I think I just had them out like that and then just kind of did a bit of a, what's it called? A production line. So I kind of just did it that way, and I didn't use my stamping platform. I just used the block and just got on with it really. So I'm going to get started. I'll pop some music on so that you don't have to watch it in real time. But yeah, if you're not interested, just fast forward to the next chapter if you just want to see what it looks like afterwards. If not, I'll see you in a bit and I will get on with some stamping.
Let's go outside, the snow is falling down and every child is having so much fun. The snowman is twice the size as me, with a smile as quirky as mine. We're holding hands to keep each other warm while we stand and watch a choir performing all the Christmas songs that we love. Yeah, all the Christmas songs that we love. And in a while we're gonna go inside and drink our chocolate by the fire. 'Cause all I want is to spend this day with you.
I've used everything I want to use from this stamp set, but now I want to move onto the Heidi Swap. I want to put this star on them and I want to do it in metallic ink, I think. So I'm going to be working on all of them this time and just perhaps adding some of these features in to what I've already done. So, you know, just like some of the circles, it says all access pass there. That might be nice to put on. So yeah, I'm just going to fill them out a little bit with some things from here. I think I'm going to use this Lisa Horton Pigment Ink Interference. This is really nice because it's like a charcoal, so it's not quite black, very dark charcoal grey. When it's on white paper, then turns gold on black paper. So I've tried it on here. When it's over that inking, it switches from like that charcoal to like gold flecks in it. I'm hoping it's focusing and not focusing on the ink pads on the desk. So I'm going to use that. I found with these inks as well, as they dry, they become really a lot more, they become a lot brighter. The colour becomes a lot more pigmented. So I'm going to put these.
Let me give you a Christmas, a moment we'll fill with love and joy. So beautiful.
Because these are a pigment ink, those little stars, I am going to just dry them off before I start adding anything else.
Kissing on a mistletoe's baby with you. I don't need any presents as long as I spend this day with you. So beautiful, kissing on a mistletoe's baby with you. Ooh. I'm making plans of what we're gonna do. I feel so blessed that I can be with you. 'Cause God knows that I've been longing for you. I just wanna hold you close.
I think with these two small ones, so there's an all access pass and there's these little whirls. I'm going to actually stamp them separately and cut them out. And then obviously you could just stamp them straight on if you wanted a one layer. But I think it'll look really nice with a little bit of dimension and then just something stuck on the top. So I'm going to do that next.
You know the stars are shining just for you. Let's take a walk and we can follow the moonlight till we reach a place we could stay. Maybe kiss a bit and dream away. And in a while we're gonna go inside and drink our chocolate by the fire. 'Cause all I want is to spend.
Right, so I've got those cut out and then just ready to kind of stick on. But what I was thinking, because they're on the paper, which is great, but to give them a bit of dimension rather than using like a foam pad, I have this, it just says foam sheets, 2mm, and I'm wondering if I could use my punch and punch some holes the same size and to give them some lift. I'm going to try that. Okay, I've worked out that if I put some paper underneath it, it gets a cleaner cut. So I'm going to punch some holes. My plan is to stick them on the top, like that. And then you get a little bit of lift, but because it's foam, it's not going to get squished. And then I can just add it onto there like that. I'm going to use this so I don't get too much glue. I think tweezers might be a good idea here. So I've got 3 access and I've got 3 whirls, which isn't quite enough, but I'm just going to see how they get on. I'm going to let them dry for a sec. The foam, it just gets slightly misshapen when you cut through it, and just trimming round. And I'm one sure I can sort that out in a bit. I'm not overly keen on this one because it misprinted. I'm going to keep it, but I'm going to make these ones priority. So I'm going to get these stuck down, and I need to make one for those, for that one. And to finish off, I have this new washi by Crafted by Tony. She's a really good channel. I bought this from her Etsy store. She now has her own range of stamps and washi tapes. And I'm thinking of using some of this just in areas to bring out some of the colour. So there's this one, because they seem to match quite nicely. I mean, I'm talking about like a really tiny kind of rippy bit. I'll put that there. I'll burnish that down. Editing Donna here. I thought these looked a little bit unfinished. So what I did was printed the word ticket from this Heidi Swap stamp set. Printed that out, put some cheesecloth on, and then made a little cluster on the side. And I've got these really tiny paper clips, so I've popped those on as well, just at the top. And I think it just finishes them off. And then I went around with my distressing tool and distressed them a little bit. So I just wanted to fill you in on that, because obviously these are going to be the ones on the thumbnail. And that's that one there. So back to the video. So on all of them, I have stuck some of that washi, and I just went over with my blender just to darken them a little bit. So this is what they all look like, finished off. And you can still see the shine of that embossing. Just give that extra bit of detail and texture. So I've got these 2 as well. Oops. And then this one's got the stripy red. And then that's the thicker red, white and blue. And then this is the kind of thinner stripy one with the green on. Oops, upside down. So next video, we will do some tickets. Christmas themed tickets, I think. So come back and join me for that if you're interested. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you like my little, what are they called? Not really ID cards, are they? Travel passes, I suppose. Postcards. We can also make little envelopes for these as well, which would be nice. So I'll have a think about that as well. But I will sign off for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and see you next time. Take care. Bye.